Hey all, it's Nim, or Nimbacree if you're feeling professional, and welcome to the YouTube video. Now, this video is a companion video to a previous video, What Battle for Azeroth Did Right. And while I know, depending on who you ask, there was nothing that Battle for Azeroth did right, I'm going to leave the positive outlook that I normally have at the door. That positive outlook will be in the video that will be linked in the cards and the description, which is What Battle for Azeroth Did Right. For now, it's time to tabulate the sins and crimes of Battle for Azeroth, which is perfect if you're going to be Venthyr in the Shadowlands. Starting off, we have Azerite Armor. Now, for those who have played Battle for Azeroth for multiple patches, you'll know the myriad problems with Azerite Armor. First, the traits were unbalanced in the extreme. This led to many early nerfs, and then certain traits performed too powerfully, such as sub-rogues on Zul. Those traits were also nerfed. In fact, if I remember correctly, I believe the first kill of Mythic Zul, the 5th raid boss in Uldir, had 5 sub-rogues, and that was to deal with the ads. The next problem with Azerite Armor was the re-farming of traits. So, hypothetically, let's say you unlocked the trait you absolutely needed in order to make your spec perform well at Heart of Azeroth level 35. Then when the new raid dropped that same trait on a higher eye level piece of gear, it would be locked off, thus forcing you to not equip the piece of gear, grind out Azerite levels, or equip the piece that is not optimal. And so, I'll give you an example. There was the Crusade. I played a Ret Paladin for most of the expansion. And I think it was Crusader's Might. Gave me an extra 5 seconds of Avenging Wrath, and gave me some extra mastery, I believe, while I was under Avenging Wrath. Okay, great. And if you play a Ret Paladin, more Avenging Wrath time is, you're like, yes, please, give it to me, all of it. So I would get, I got that piece off an Uldir piece. I think it was off, I can't remember the boss. Anyways, I got a piece off Uldir. And then when I go into Battle for Dazalor to get it, I find that it's locked. Now, it wasn't locked too heavily. I only needed 2 more artifact levels, and I was able to get it. But still, the fact that I had already unlocked something, and then new raids here have to unlock it again for the same effect that I had just been using 6 months, I felt that's a failure. And a lot of people think that too. Finally, there's the problem the Azerite system didn't really change how your class performed. Oftentimes, it added a random proc or empowered ability or stat. It was nothing a player could control, and thus led to wild swings in DPS and entire sites such as Blood Mallet to help players figure out which traits should be chosen. And, you know, that's a problem. The fact that I got all this cool Azerite armor, and I put cool in quotation marks, all these traits that are very powerful, and it ultimately doesn't really do anything. It basically acts as I think Mastery acts. It makes me better at what I'm already doing. So, again, I go back to the extending the Avenging Wrath. Oh, okay. Wings are out. 5 more seconds? Great. Or every time, Light's Decree, every time I spend, I do a little bit of AoE damage. Okay. On to Island Expeditions. These were pitched as dynamic events that would change based on your actions, with both PvP and PvE variants. In reality, prior to the rebalancing of the Island Expeditions, it was best to bring AoE DPS, gather mobs, and just nuke them down. Eventually, Blizzard nerfed the Azerite gains to the bar doing that, and it became about who could kill rares the fastest, which wasn't a terrible system, but ultimately it wasn't dynamic. Yes, world events would occur, you'd see things happen, but you couldn't control it. I couldn't be like, let's say I kill, you know, these 3 rares on this one island. Oh, I'm guaranteed to get the Mantid to come in, or the Mogu, or the Valkyr, or the Calvadir. You know, there was no way I could control it. It would just happen. The other problem with the Island Expeditions is the reward system. There was originally no real way to target what you wanted. You just had to run the queue over and over and over and over and hope you popped into the island you wanted. Then on top of that, you had to hope you got the item you wanted. The system was a mess. But they fixed it! In 8.3, salvage crates were added in order to let you spend Island Exped currency, doubloons, on them. They were random, and you could get duplicates. You could get every item from a certain expedition from the named crate. But the crates were expensive. Too expensive in my estimation. Some fix. Now, I do want to add a personal note to this video. My lead mod, my longtime friend, was trying to get all the toys, mounts, and pets from the X-Beds. She got them all except for one. She ran many, many more X-Beds than myself, and she never got the candle. Now, RNG, being RNG, I guess you can guess the end of the story. I got the candle. I didn't even know the candle existed. I felt like she was a kobold and I was the player character. I took the candle. On to Warfronts. This is one feature I was looking forward to. The idea of taking part in a real-time strategy battle, but as an MMORPG character, was intriguing. Do I push and try to zerg the opponent's base? Do I gather resources and upgrade my troops? And the fact that the upgrade, I could get upgraded for war resources and would help me in Warfronts, that was a bright hope. Then they launched. Many videos were created about how few players were needed to actually take part in the scenario to win. Now, I don't know the exact minimum number of players needed to win in normal Warfronts, but I hazard a guess of less than 10. The rewards were kind of meh, and also I was playing Alliance when Warfronts first went live, and there was you could gear up your alts fairly quickly. Granted, it was crap gear, but there wasn't an item level requirement to enter. Once the Alliance got it, there was an item level requirement to enter. Now, some people may scream, "Horde bias! Horde bias!" The gear was crap. However, the eye level boost was a tangible benefit because then you could get into other things. The World Quest gear could be better. You could get the highest possible from World Quest gear. So, while it was a benefit, it was a small benefit. Eventually, we received a harder version of Warfronts, and I'm going to be honest here. I spent hours trying to get into a heroic Warfront, and by the time it was easy for me to join one, the loot was useless. The loot was a 460 piece of gear. It was essentially Warfront gear, but, 30 levels higher. As a parting note on this topic, I could pick up an axe and harvest wood, and I didn't get a wood chopping animation. Now, that may seem like a small thing, but you had to go out of your way. In order to collect wood as a resource, you had to go out of your way to pick up an axe. It was a literal buff on your bar. And I wanted an animation. I just wanted an animation. On to loot. So you did it! You killed the raid boss with the guild. Time to roll on gear. Don't forget, no more master loot. So you loot the boss, and now it's time for massive RNG to kick in. The individual piece of loot can Warforge, Titan Forge multiple times, add a socket, and add a tertiary stat. So you'd end up with a system like this. I sure hope I get the weapon I need. Rolls. I got the weapon, but it doesn't have a socket. It's not Warforged or Titan Forged. Thus, cue disappointment. Now, but Nim, what if it was an upgrade? It's fine, it's an upgrade, but I'm still on the treadmill. Remember, I come from an older version of WoW, where Boss X drops item Y that I need for character. Item Y is BIS, best in slot. Once I have that for that tier, I am best in slot for that tier, and I can move on. I come from that school of thought, and with Master Looter, you could be like, well, that's actually my best, that's actually my BIS, it's the best in slot, I can assign it to somebody. But there were people who abused Master Looter, a lot of complaints, thus we lost Master Looter for BFA. In 8.3, Warforging and Titan Forging went away in favor of Corruption Forging, or Corruption. I never really knew what exactly it was calling, but the community called it Corruption Forging. Corruption was so massive, I could do a whole video on it, but for just a brief illustration of the problems with it, that many corruptions were nerfed repeatedly. In fact, one of the biggest scandals in the community was when people spent millions of gold on BOEs with proper corruptions, and then, literally the day after, there was a nerf. We saw this with Infinite Stars, with Lady Ashvane in the Eternal Palace. People were still farming Ashvane for Ashvane's Razor Coral, as that was the best trinket, far and away, DPS-wise, and you can see those links on Blood Mallet. And they killed with everybody with Infinite Stars at rank 3. I mean, they burned her down in like 10 seconds. It was crazy. Previously, we saw that in current content with the Iron Reaver in Hellfire Citadel. You could kill, if you brought enough Arcane Mages with the ring proc, you could kill it in 10 seconds. And that was current content. Now, granted, the Eternal Palace technically was a patch before 8.3, but it was a mythic boss, and mythic bosses usually don't die in 10 seconds, one patch over. And then, of course, you had the nerfs to Echoing Void, you had the nerfs to Twilight Devastation, you had the fact that 30 tanks could run Heroic Nyalotha, everybody with Twilight Devastation, they would just essentially be like, target acquired, boom, 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 and kill the bosses. Finally, of course, we have N'Zoth. Ah, N'Zoth. What can I say about N'Zoth that Lady Ashara didn't say? He truly is the weakest and worst of all his brothers. He's the final boss of the expansion, and this boss was just not fun. Killing Psychus a few times, having extremely tight DPS windows, combined with just essentially killing ads in a specific order, it reminded me again a lot of Muru. N'Zoth sits in the middle, doesn't really do much. You have to kill ads, stack with Paranoia Partner, on at least Heroic and Normal. Now, for the interest of full disclosure, I didn't kill N'Zoth on Mythic, so I can't speak to that fight, but from what I've seen, it's not a whole lot different. Yeah, you'd go down, you'd come up, there was fire zones, and it ultimately just, the DPS shield problem, it was too long a fight. Like Imperator Margok, too long a fight. Now, I know I didn't list everything that Battle for Azeroth did wrong, so let me know in the comments what I missed. Now, before we do end, I do want to mention that I stream on Twitch Monday, Tuesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There'll be something on the screen showing the Twitch link. If you like the video, like, comment, subscribe, do all that other stuff. And, of course, I will see you in the next video, which is, I believe, going to be my final thoughts on Battle for Azeroth. So keep gaming, enjoy life, and I'll see you all in the Shadowlands. Bye. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, check out these other videos for more nimpactful content, and I'd like to thank all my patrons for helping make this possible. Enjoy the rest of your day, and take some time for yourself.